The Windy City Hoops podcast is sponsored by our friends at Anchor.fm. Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When I was trying to launch the Windy City Hoops pod, I had some questions. How do I get the show on the best platforms? How do I build listenership? And how do I monetize? The answer to all those questions is simple. Anchor.fm. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. Anchor can even match you up with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to pod right away. So if you always wanted to start a podcast and make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start to join me and a diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start to launch your podcast today. Windy City Nation, welcome back into the Windy City Hoops podcast. Been a little bit since our last edition, but the Windy City Bulls are still surging towards the playoffs with now 1 month left in the season. Bulls now sit in first place atop the Central Division, 1.5 games up on the Grand Rapids Drive and the Fort Wayne Mad Ants. Going to be an incredible race to the finish as there are just 5 home games left remaining, so be sure to grab your seats at the Sears Centre Arena for the stretch run. Bulls split the weekend to stay in the division lead. Got a huge victory on Friday night over the Fort Wayne Mad Ants, 119-112, in a battle for first place. Bulls had 30 assists and 66 points in the paint in that contest. Truly balanced attack with 2 players recording double-doubles. Kaiser Gates with 23 points and 11 boards. Brandon Sampson with 24 points and 10 boards. And a triple-double by Walt Lemon Jr., 21 points, 10 rebounds, and 13 assists. Bulls then fell to the Maine Red Claws yesterday afternoon, 121-113. Red Claws shot 46% from 3 to get the win at home. Brandon Sampson led the Bulls with 32. Chicago Bulls had a big weekend as well, riding a 3-game winning streak with a victory over the Celtics, 126-116. Chicago had 2 career highs in that game, Zach LaVine notching a career mark of 42 points, and Lauri Markkanen setting a new personal best at 35. Player that suited up for both teams this year, Windy City and Chicago, will be our first guest on the pod today. This player signed with the organization on December 27th, has already become a steady leader for Windy City. That's two-way guard, Brandon Sampson. We're here with Windy City Bulls two-way guard, Brandon Sampson. Brandon, thanks so much for joining the Windy City Hoops podcast.
No problem.
So you guys had a few days off from games over the All-Star break. Did you have the time to get back home to Louisiana? Did you head to Charlotte? How'd you spend that weekend?
I went back home for a few days, got to see fam for a little bit, spent some time with some of my relatives and things like that, so it was pretty good going back home and just getting to hang with my family a little bit.
You look at a guy like Chris Middleton over the All-Star break. Did the G League guys talk a lot about that as far as a guy going from the G League to being an NBA All-Star? Do you guys chat about that a bit?
Most definitely it's a dream, and most definitely it's a big goal to get there, most definitely. So just watching guys like that, it's most definitely motivation. I say biggest thing, because a lot of guys coming out of this undrafted thing, and it's most definitely a goal of mine. Just get there, most definitely get on that regular NBA contract, first of all, but most definitely getting to be a superstar. That's a great accomplishment on that level, and most definitely motivation. So,
yeah, absolutely. Inspiration there to get to that level can definitely happen from the G League. So, as we were saying, you grew up in Baton Rouge area. Was it always on your mind that you wanted to end up playing for LSU?
I was originally committed to St. John's in New York.
Oh, really?
They had like the coaching change and things like that. And just going off with that, and that was just a good thing with me. I got into LSU and just started to watch that, and I took it as a sign. So.
Yeah, definitely. So that was the whole transition with St. John's with Chris Mullen around that time?
Chris Mullen was the second one. I was under Steve Lavin, recruited by him. So.
Got it. Where else were you looking at? So you were a 4-star recruit in high school. Where else were you looking at?
Oklahoma State, UCLA, USC, and LSU. Those were my top 4 at the time.
So it just worked out. You ended up staying at home. That's great. And then you got a fellow Tiger in Chicago with you, Antonio Blakeney. What advice has AB given you since you joined the organization to make it a smooth transition?
It's really been great advice coming from him, because he's kind of went through the path that I'm going through right now. So a 2-way contract and things like that. I think this past summer he was converted to his regular NBA contract. So it's a lot of advice that he's giving me that he's went through already. So it's just great to have that experience from him. I don't think you can get any better than that coming from a guy who went through it before me. So he's most definitely giving me great advice. Just telling me how day by day went for him and just the things you have to get on hand and get taxed, just get up there to that next level and hopefully achieve that regular NBA contract. So.
Absolutely. And how's the organization been so far? How was your first experience in the association with the Chicago Bulls?
Most great, most definitely. Great group of guys up there. Everyone's game friendly. You get attached to really guys really fast, make friendships. Everyone's open, and it's just a great group up there. So it was blessings and some things up there like that. So.
Are Jim Boylen's practices all there talked about? Is he running you pretty hard in practice when you're up there?
He coaches. He coaches very hard. I think that's a big thing. Part of that's gotten me my development. To be honest, been through a lot of coaches that coach hard, and I think I've gotten better from him. I just love the way he coaches. He just expects the most out of his guys, and I think that's the only way that you'll get somebody to bring out their full potential, just by coaching them like that. So I really love the way he coaches, and I think it'll bring the most out of him.
As far as Windy City goes, you guys have a deep roster. Seems like on any given night, a guy can step up to get a victory. How do you describe the chemistry on the team right now as you guys make a push for the playoffs?
We have a lot of versatile guys, so you never notice a lot. Like you said, it's a lot of talent on this team. At any given moment, any guy on this team can just go out for a good night. So we just got to be ready for that, just stay prepared. But it's a great group of guys down here as well. And I think they're so down to earth, and it makes you more comfortable down here playing with these guys because there's so much. Everybody has the same goal, but everybody wants to work towards the same goal at the same time. So it's more of a team thing, and it's just real great playing with these guys. So it's just a great group of talent down here, guys. Even guys off the bench can come out and give me great energy, just whatever it is, just coming out to get that win because it's a different type of playing style down here. Just start with energy and things like that. So I think we have a great group of guys that do that.
So we're getting close to the home stretch here, end of the season. Do you guys talk about playoffs in the locker room? Do you talk about wanting that opportunity?
Yeah, most definitely. We talk about making that push. Just these last 12, 13 games, trying to critique all the things that were the mistakes and things. We may not have a lot of time on the court, but we have to critique a lot of things in the film room, so we spend more time in there. It's probably a time of year we spend more time in here, just critiquing things and whatnot. So, we most definitely talk about making that playoff push. We're right there on the edge and things like that. So we have to get those things intact, those critique things that we're messing up. We're in game 32, things like that. So we got to just limit our mistakes and things like that to make us excel to that next level.
Definitely. I mean, that's a constant thing in the G League as far as, roster changes, building that chemistry as you go. What have you guys been tweaking lately to get to that level where you want to be rolling into the playoffs?
That team defense, just helping your teammate, helping your brother, next play like that. Just not only worrying about your man being in spots that you can help your team out just all around defensively. Because offense will come when we run and guys like that. Like I said, there's a lot of guys on talent. Things will click. Great group, great talent guys. So we just worry about stops on that defensive end first and let offense take care of it. So.
And Brandon, speaking of teammates, you wear the number 44 as a tribute to your friend and former teammate at LSU, Wade Sims, who was killed last fall. Can you tell us a little bit about just who Wade was, what he meant to you and so many others, and how you honor him with your career and through your social media and all those aspects?
That was one of my best friends, and that's just something I'll take with me for the rest of my life. And I just cherish that to his parents. I have a really great relationship with his parents and things like that, and I just made a promise that I'll cherish him for the rest of my life, and that's just something I carry to me throughout my life every day. Just social media is so much more, and I really take pride with that number on my back, and I really take it as a blessing just to wear that number for him. So, I would really take a lot of pride with that, and just giving that all to his parents. This is one of my best friends, so yeah, it's something I most definitely carry with me every day.
Well, you're definitely honoring him well with the way you play. Brandon, thanks so much for the time. We really appreciate it. All the best with the game tonight.
No problem. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Big thanks to Brandon Sampson for taking the time to join the podcast. Again, Brandon already becoming a huge contributor for the Windy City Bulls, averaging 18 points, 5 boards on 50% shooting from the field. Up next today, we're going to go to Julio Rausseo and Chris Rouse, play-by-play and color commentators for the Windy City Bulls on NBC Sports Chicago and ESPN+. Chris and Julio are going to take us through what's led to this late-season surge by the Windy City Bulls to make their first playoff run.
Chris Rouse here with my broadcast partner, Julio Rausseo. We combine as the voices of the Windy City Bulls. And Julio, right now, the Windy City Bulls having their best season in the young history of the Windy City Bulls. Julio, how do you feel about what the Bulls are doing this season?
We talked about it when we first saw each other in the arena this afternoon. This has to be the biggest game in team history. Third year as a team. And this game has so much importance simply because it's the top two teams in the Central Division. It's the last time these two teams are going to face each other in Windy City and the Fort Wayne Mad Ants. The Bulls have a half-game lead on Fort Wayne. And with less than, 11 games left in the season, every game matters. So hoping the atmosphere is going to be electric tonight, similar to what it was on Wednesday. Obviously a more younger and energetic crowd, but considering this a playoff implication, this is what Brad Seymour, Charlie Henry, everyone with the Windy City Bulls, and even the Chicago Bulls had hoped for not only players to develop, play with the Chicago Bulls, but play important games in the G League. Look at Santa Cruz, look at Raptors 905. Those players that win championships go on to have success in the NBA as well. Yeah,
and I think what's happened with Windy City, it underscores that it's a long season. Right. But the fact that they started 5-12, had the 9-game win streak back in January, and now here they are, 2 above 500, and now playing in this big game for first place in the Central Division. And to your point, they've had a lot of players that have pretty much gelled together, whether it be here with Windy City or up with the Chicago Bulls. Riley Alkins and Brandon Sampson have had a lot of minutes with the Chicago Bulls this season. Maybe not a lot of minutes on the floor, but they spent a lot of games with them going on road trips. But here on the court, I think a big key for Windy City has been the play of Walter Lemon Jr. Ever since signing him, the team went on that magical 9-game win streak at the end of December into early January. They've had Jakar Sampson go to China and come back and still be a force. So it feels like as a team, they are poised for a strong run to the playoffs this season.
Oh, without a doubt. I'm just looking at Walter's last 5 games. Points-wise, 24, 15, 6, 18, and 26. Assist-wise, I mean, these are incredible numbers. 10 assists, 9 assists, 5, 15, and 13. Those are his last 5 games. A true floor general on the floor.
Agreed.
Players are really gravitating towards him. Spoke to Gennaro Pargo, the team's assistant coach, on Wednesday prior to their afternoon game against Agua Caliente, and he echoed the same sentiments about Walter Lemon Jr. I don't know if he was being sarcastic with me or not. I'm like, so what's the difference between for this team ever since you started 5-12? He said, well, Walter Lemon's a pretty good player, quote unquote.
Yeah, I remember we talked about that during the broadcast of the last game against the Agua Caliente Clippers. Also, another player that I think has really stepped up has been Kaiser Gates. Kaiser Gates, last time the Bulls played Fort Wayne, which was about 2 weeks from the time we were recording this, had a career high 24 points. When he came in, was sort of just a shooter, but I think he's done more to work on his game. He's made himself a threat by moving around without the ball. The last game I saw him a lot more confident getting to the basket. What do you have to say about Kaiser Gates' development this season?
Yeah, I mean, he's growing game by game, without a doubt. 3-point shooting, he's growing in that department. Rebounds is the biggest thing. To get a big this day and age who considers himself more of a stretch than playing inside the paint, to convince him to get back inside the paint and really play dirty, get those rebounds, that's a testament to his professional ability and how he wants to mature as a player. So Kaiser's been outstanding. And going back to what Walter Lemon's impact has been, it's trickled down to other guards on this team.
Agreed.
A Michael Mulder, a Thomas Wilder. I think Gennaro Pargo said that Thomas Wilder has been one of the biggest improvements this season. So I mean, the whole guards have really have seen dividends with Walter Lemon's impact.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thomas Wilder, I think the biggest improvement he's made has been his outside shooting this season. I remember earlier in the year he would sort of take a lot of set shots. Now he shoots more with his legs. So it's just that work ethic that Walter Lemon has spread to the rest of the team. Everyone is trying to get better this season. I remember CJ Fair earlier saying, hey, I want to be better shooting from the outside. He's done a great job of hitting the corner threes. Still needs work above the break, but the fact that he's taking those steps shows that, hey, this team, they want to win. They want to make a run to the playoffs, and right now they're in a great position. It has to start with a win tonight against the Fort Wayne Mad Ants.
Without a doubt. I'm looking at the schedule ahead, Chris. So we've got Fort Wayne tonight, closes out a 4-game homestand. They go on the road for 2 next week against Maine and Sioux Falls. Sioux Falls is a makeup game from a couple of weeks ago when that got snowed out through the travel plans. And then they come back to play Lakeland, Santa Cruz, and they play Maine, Delaware, Lakeland, Erie, Canton to close out the regular season. You know, looking at the standings, while we're paying a lot of attention to Fort Wayne, let's not forget about Grand Rapids. The Drive are really climbing the standings as well. They're currently sitting at third at the recording of this podcast. The Bulls, unfortunately, are 1-3 this year against Grand Rapids. So if the Drive make a late push to the postseason, and if either Fort Wayne and Windy City stumble, the Bulls could find themselves on the outside looking in simply because they're 1-3 against Grand Rapids this year. That's a team to keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks of the season.
Yeah, that's a great point. Grand Rapids owning the tiebreaker over the Windy City Bulls, but now we got to get to the big question here. What will it take for the Windy City Bulls to win the NBA G League championship this season?
Well, I'm going to echo on what Gennaro Pargo told me on Wednesday. Defense.
Yeah.
Best offense, the championship-winning teams thrive on defense. They out-hustle their opponents, and they make things very difficult, especially come playoff time. I mean, you watch so much basketball, and you know the difference between regular season basketball and playoff basketball. And even now, coming back from the All-Star break, you're seeing the difference in the first games back from the All-Star break and the intensity than what it was just 2 weeks ago. So if you're sound fundamentally defensively, you've got a great chance to win. And Windy City have been one of the best teams defensively this year, especially coming back from that 5-12 start. So the way the Windy City Bulls win the G League championship is through their defense. Yeah, their defense. They're the number 2 defense in the league as far as points allowed. The only team better than them, I believe, is the Westchester Knicks, who give up fewer points. But I look at it on the offensive standpoint. I think there are some games where Windy City offensively, they'll start out they have a great offensive start and then sort of fall in love with shots just because they're making them, and they stumble and allow teams back into it. We saw that in the game against Agua Caliente the other day. They hit their first 4 3-pointers, then they came out and missed maybe 4 of their next 5, and before you knew it, a 15-point lead turned into a 5-point deficit. So for Windy City, sometimes it's about not falling in love with shots just because you're making them. It's about making the smart basketball play. But I totally agree with you on the defensive end, but I also think this Windy City team, they have a lot of weapons on the offensive end with Walter Lemon, Jakar Sampson, Michael Motor. When he comes back from Team Canada, he's with Team Canada right now for the FIBA World Cup. But when he comes back, he gives them the outside shooting. That 3-headed monster for Windy City, it causes problems for other teams. And then, of course, Windy City, their bench production has been outstanding as of late, with Kaiser Gates stepping up. And now they add Tyweion Kinley from Capital City, a guy that's averaging 11 a game. So I just think offensively, it's about playing smart basketball and, once again, sticking with that tough defense. Without a doubt. 11 games left. 5 out of those 11 are going to be here at the Sears Centre Arena. For those who are listening to this podcast, and you've been contemplating, should I go? Should I not go to a Windy City game? Show up, because these are going to be some pivotal games down the stretch. These last 5 home games are going to be crucial. That's
my partner, Julio Rausseo. I'm Chris Rouse. Thank you for listening, and now back to you, Joe.
Thanks so much, Julio and Chris. As those guys were saying, just 1 month remaining in this Windy City Bulls regular season, so definitely get out to the Sears Centre Arena, enjoy some fantastic Windy City Bulls action. A lot of players stepping up to make this playoff run, so some exciting times going on at the arena. The G League regular season ends a little earlier than the NBA season, so just a few weeks left, just 5 home games remaining for the Windy City Bulls. A couple promotional nights coming up. On March 3rd, that's a Sunday at 2 p.m. against the Santa Cruz Warriors, will be Boy Scout and Girl Scout Day. I imagine some cookies will be sold on that day, so enjoy with the ball game as well. Faith and Family Night on March 15th, that's a Friday night at 7 p.m. against the Delaware Bluecoats. And on the final night of the regular season for the Windy City Bulls against the Canton Charge, there'll be an NBA 2K tournament going on that night at the Sears Centre Arena. So for you gamers out there, get out to the Sears Centre Arena that night to show your 2K skills. For tickets, get to windyscitybulls.com/tickets or give a call to the Sears Centre Arena box office at 847-649-2270. And we'll see you out there for this playoff run. That'll about do it for this edition of the Windy City Hoops podcast. Thanks so much for downloading. I'm your host, Joe Kestnick. We'll catch you next time. Until then, go Bulls.